Richins appearing in shackles today in a Utah courtroom.
First-degree felony aggravated murder. The court hereby sentences you to life without parole.
My sweet baby boys, I know that today you don't want to speak to me, have a relationship with me, but you may think you hate me, and that's okay. I will never be angry at you for your feelings. When the day comes that you're ready, I will be here for you, waiting for you, and loving you. But I need you boys to know and understand that I have been desperately trying to get in contact with you any way that I can for years. That all of my communication has been completely cut off from you since early 2024. And now I will use any opportunity I can to get a message to you. Even if that means sharing it publicly to the world, fully restrained, in my jail clothes, in one of the most horrible situations possible. I don't care, and I'm not embarrassed or ashamed by any of it. All I care about is you boys. I will do whatever it takes for you to hear the truth from me and to come home to you. For the time being, I don't know when that is or when my next opportunity will be. So for now, bear with me as I have tried to consolidate everything I've wanted to share with you for the last few years, with everything I want you to know until I'm able to speak to you again, and one long message. And although you may not be ready to hear it today, that's okay. My hope is one day you will be. May 6th of 2024, temporary custody was transferred from the state of Utah Child Services to your Aunt Katie and Uncle Clint. My last video call with you boys was several.
The courtroom went completely silent when Kouri Richins' own children admitted they were afraid of her. But what happened seconds later may become the most chilling moment of this entire case. Because even after being sentenced to die in prison, Kouri Richins still told her sons she plans to come back. Most headlines only covered the sentence, life without parole, maximum penalty, case closed. But they completely ignored the disturbing reactions happening inside that courtroom on May 13, 2026. They missed the eye rolls, the smirks, the faces she made while her murdered husband's family begged for justice. And they definitely missed the moment she looked directly at where her children would hear her words and promised them something that made prosecutors visibly react. "I'm coming home," she said, "not today, not this year, but we're going to make this right." A woman convicted unanimously of poisoning her husband with 5 times the lethal dose of fentanyl. A woman whose own 3 sons just told the court they would fear for their safety if she ever walked free. And she promised them she's coming back. The date itself carried weight that felt almost cruel. May 13th would have been Eric Richins' 44th birthday. Instead of celebrating with his 3 boys, his family sat in a Park City courtroom watching the woman who took him from them make one final performance. But here's what the cameras didn't catch. Here's what got buried under the headlines. The way Kouri Richins reacted when her son's words were read aloud by their therapists. The subtle expressions, the body language that courtroom observers immediately noticed. Because while her children spoke about their fear, about the animals that died under her care, about being locked in rooms and told they might die in their father's bed too, Kouri Richins was making faces.
This is from WR. I woke up to sirens, and there were a lot of people at my house, and I was definitely scared. I felt confused. I was in a bedroom with my brothers, and I didn't know what was happening. At first I was really scared because I didn't know what was happening and I had no control and I felt helpless. I felt really overwhelmed. After my dad died, Kouri would put us in the basement while she was with the neighbor. I felt scared because I thought something really bad was happening again. She would take me to places that smelled really bad. Everything she did made me feel uncomfortable. When someone talks about Kouri, it makes me feel hateful and ashamed. She took away my dad. It's made me have a hard time trusting people. I was scared that Kouri's family would come to my school and take me. I had to go to counseling with DCFS in Heber and I did not like it. DCFS made me talk to Kouri and I couldn't do things that I wanted to do. I felt not important to anyone. I feel a lot better about myself now than I did with Kouri. I can't ever see my dad again. I want her to go to prison forever. If she got out, I would be so scared, really mad, and I wouldn't want to go with her anywhere. I'm worried that she would take me away from Katie and Clint. Once she is gone, I will feel happy, and I will feel safer and relaxed, and trust people more.
Thank you. Christina.
Yes, Your Honor. I am Christina Green. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, not registered play therapist, and I will be reading for AR. You took away my dad for no reason other than greed, and you only cared about yourself and your stupid boyfriends. You were not caring and watching over me and my brothers. I had to be a parent to W. C and I would walk him to the bus stop, feed him, and watch him. You were not concerned about our health. When we got hurt, you didn't even care. When C got ran over by a side-by-side, you still made him go to the soccer game that day without taking him to the doctors first. You would lock C in his room, and I would have to go to the kitchen and bring him food. You shamed us when we didn't want to eat uncooked lasagna you made. We threw it away because we couldn't eat it. Then you made us watch videos of children starving in war areas. You wanted to scare us into eating something that wasn't cooked. You wouldn't let our dog outside, and then the dog would pee inside. You created this problem, then you would smack my dog on the head as hard as you could. You wouldn't let me put my kitten in the garage for safety at night, and we found it eaten by raccoons the next day. You wouldn't let us turn on and use the heater lamp for the chickens and bunnies, and they froze to death. You would always argue with my dad and lock the door. You were not playing the role as a real mother does. You were doing the opposite. Now my dad can't be my coach anymore, can't be at any of my games. He won't be at my birthdays. He can't teach me how to drive. He won't be at my graduation, and he can't take me camping or fishing. You made me paranoid about sleeping on my dad's side of the bed by saying I might die or get harmed when I was just trying to be close to my dad after you killed him. You took away everything from me and my brothers. I don't want you out of jail because I will not feel safe if you are out. You have never said sorry for anything that you have done to me and my brothers. I don't want you to hurt anyone again. I know that you will need to stay in jail to fully take accountability for what you did to me, C, W, and my dad. With you in jail, I will be able to continue to feel safe and live a happy and successful life without fear of you hurting me or anyone I love. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Rolling her eyes as Eric's sister Katie spoke through tears. Yet minutes later, when her own family took the stand to defend her character, those same observers watched her dissolve into sobs. Two completely different reactions, same courtroom, same day. And that contrast is exactly what made this sentencing hearing so deeply unsettling. If you want to see the updates mainstream media stops covering after the headlines fade, you need to subscribe right now, because this case just took a turn that most people will never hear about. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming. The sentencing fell on what would have been Eric Richins' 44th birthday. His father, his sisters, his brother-in-law all gathered to speak on behalf of a man who could no longer speak for himself. The atmosphere inside that Summit County courtroom was suffocating. Judge Richard M. Razik entered. Kouri Richins sat flanked by her attorneys wearing a lime green jail uniform. Eric's family sat in the first two rows directly behind her. Kouri's family and friends were positioned in the back rows. The divide was physical, literal. You could see it in the courtroom layout. And you could feel it in the air. Prosecutors had already made their position clear. They asked the judge to impose a sentence of life without parole, noting that Kouri has demonstrated zero accountability or remorse. Defense attorneys requested 25 years to life with the possibility of parole. They argued the judge should impose a lesser sentence in case the children change their minds and later decide they want a relationship with their mother. But before the judge could decide, there were voices that needed to be heard. Voices of children who lost their father. Voices of a family that lost a son, a brother, a light in their community. And eventually, the voice of the woman convicted of taking him away. Eric's sister Kouri Richins Benson stood before the court and said, "Today is Eric's birthday. I stand before you because he can't. He was taken away from us by a person he should have been able to trust." Eric's father, Eugene Richins, said the loss left a permanent hole in their family and community. He was a light to his sons, to the boys he coached, and to our entire community, a light that was taken way too soon. The emotion was raw, real, devastating. But the sentence itself wasn't actually the moment that shocked the courtroom most. Because what came next would reveal just how dangerous Judge M. Razik believed Kouri Richins truly was. Judge Richard M. Razik didn't mince words. He said Kouri Richins' actions caused the absolute tragedy that has befallen Eric Richins' sons and family, and a person convicted of those things is simply too dangerous to ever be free. Too dangerous to ever be free. That phrase is extraordinarily rare in sentencing hearings. Judges typically use measured, careful language. They reference guidelines, precedent, the facts of the case. But M. Razik went further. He said, Kouri Richins was convicted unanimously and beyond a reasonable doubt of attempting to murder Eric Richins, her husband and the father of her 3 children. And then, having failed in her first effort of spending the next 17 days not changing course but doubling down, preparing to try again, and ultimately completing the act through the administration of poison. And for what money, the judge said. The sequence was chilling when laid out in court like that. Valentine's Day 2022. Kouri allegedly tried to poison Eric with a fentanyl-laced sandwich from a local restaurant. He survived. She didn't stop, didn't reconsider, didn't think, what have I done? Prosecutor Brad Bloodworth told the court, over the next 17 days she did not think, what have I done? Rather, she thought, how can I do better? And then she murdered Eric in the presence of their children, using poison and for money. 17 days later, March 4, 2022, Eric Richins died in his bed with nearly 5 times the lethal dose of fentanyl in his system. The judge's language signaled something beyond typical judicial restraint. This wasn't just about punishment. This was about public safety, about protecting the very children she gave birth to. Because prosecutors believed something even darker was revealed during the victim impact statements. And those statements changed everything. Our roles are to read their words exactly as they wrote, therapist Jessica Black explained before reading the boys' victim impact statements. The boys want the court and the world to hear their side. These children were 9, 7, and 5 years old when they found themselves in a house where their father lay dead. Now older, still so young, they wrote words no child should ever have to write. They urged Judge M. Razik to sentence their mother, who 2 of them referred to as Kouri, to life in prison, saying they would fear for their safety if she were ever released. Not Mom, Kouri. One son wrote, you took away my dad for no reason other than greed, and you only cared about yourself and your stupid boyfriends. The middle child, now 11 years old, wanted life in prison. He said he would not feel safe if she were out of prison. But the statements went beyond the murder itself. The oldest son said his mother was always drunk or gone and would frequently lock him in his room. Kouri would lock me up if I told her she was drunk. This happened pretty much daily. The 2 oldest children described how they felt they had to take care of each other, with one describing how they would walk the youngest sibling to the bus stop and feed him. Children raising children, while their mother allegedly spiraled. And then there were the animals. You wouldn't let me put my kitten in the garage for safety at night and we found it eaten by raccoons the next day. You wouldn't let us turn on and use the heater lamp for the chickens and bunnies and they froze to death. One child accused Richins of killing almost all of his animals and potentially trying to poison him with fentanyl too, causing him to have a seizure. Imagine hearing your own children say they don't feel safe around you. Imagine knowing they refer to you by your first name instead of calling you Mom. But Kouri's response to her sons may have made the situation even worse. Because when it was finally her turn to speak, she didn't apologize. She didn't express remorse. She denied everything and then made them a promise. This is the part where most true crime channels would wrap things up. But there are layers to this case that almost nobody is talking about. If you want to understand what's really happening behind the scenes, the appeals, the financial case, the psychological warfare still playing out, you need to stay subscribed. Hit that like button if this story is gripping you, and drop a comment telling me what you think about her final statement. Because what she said next is something prosecutors will likely use against her for years to come. Kouri Richins, who did not testify during her trial, spoke for roughly 30 minutes on Wednesday, mainly addressing her children. She claimed all contact with her sons was cut off by her husband's family 2 years ago, and that this courtroom statement was her only way to reach them. Standing at the podium in her lime green jail uniform, surrounded by her defense attorneys, she spoke directly to the 3 boys who had just asked the court to keep her locked away forever. "I did not abandon you," she said to her sons. "I did not just walk out your lives one day, never return to never call, never show up regardless of what anyone tells you. I would never ever, and I am so sorry." She maintained her innocence completely. "As much as you've been influenced into thinking that Dad was murdered, that I took your dad from you, that is completely wrong. An absolute lie," she said. "God did not put me in this world to take a life." And then came the advice, the life lessons, the instructions from a convicted murderer to her terrified children. Be honest with yourself and those you need to, but never apologize for something you didn't do. Never admit to something you didn't do, and never beg for mercy for something you didn't do. She urged them repeatedly to be like your dad. She told her kids that they need to take care of one another moving forward, and that they should choose forgiveness and choose love. And then she made the promise that sent chills through everyone listening. "And one day, when this is all over, we can sit down and talk about all of this, sort it all out. I promise you, boys, one day it will be over. I'm coming home, not today, not this year, but we're going to make this right." She told her children never to give up on her, and that one day she would come home. A life sentence without parole means exactly what it sounds like. No parole, no release, prison until death. But Kouri Richins stood in that courtroom and promised her children, children who fear her, that she's coming back. The implication was clear: appeals, legal battles, a refusal to accept the jury's verdict. "I will appeal and fight these charges no matter how long it takes," Kouri Richins said. "Not because I have anything to prove to this court, to the state, to the Richins family, or to the world, but I do have something to prove to you 3. And there was something else observers noticed during her 30-minute speech. While Kouri Richins was making faces and comments during statements from her sons, she was in tears as the defense presented their arguments to the court. As her sister and brother spoke about her kind nature and calling her a good person, the defendant was seen dissolving into tears. But when Eric's family spoke, she appeared to smirk and roll her eyes when Eric Richins' sister, Katie Richins Benson, gave her statement before the court. 2 drastically different emotional displays, same woman, same day. People watching the livestream noticed, legal analysts noticed, prosecutors definitely noticed. After the ruling, Amy Richins remarked on Kouri's letter, saying she wished Kouri would look inward and take some of her own advice. "I just think some of the lies are intense. They're still lying, and I don't understand why, but I wish more than anything, because she was talking about how they should be honest, I wish she would look in and follow some of that on her own." Despite the conviction, despite the life sentence, despite her own children's fear, Kouri Richins still believes she's going home. And that belief, that refusal to accept reality, may be the most disturbing part of this entire case. Because this story, it's far from over. Kouri Richins faces a slew of other criminal charges related to her financial dealings in a separate case that has not yet gone to trial. Summit County has asked for Kouri Richins to pay back $1.4 million in legal defense costs and $1.4 million in life insurance she collected after her husband's death. Judge M. Razik is scheduled to decide on how much, if anything, she'll need to repay at a hearing July 31. The defendant pledged to appeal her conviction. The legal battles are just beginning. The sons will grow up knowing their mother promised to come back. And somewhere in a Utah prison, Kouri Richins is already planning her next move. Cases like this remind us that sometimes the most disturbing crimes don't happen in darkness. They happen behind perfectly normal family photos, behind children's books about grief, behind the image of a grieving widow who smiled for the cameras while prosecutors say she was cashing in on murder. Do you believe Kouri Richins still thinks she can win on appeal? Do you believe those 3 boys will ever feel safe again? And most importantly, do you believe someone convicted of what she was convicted of should ever have told her terrified children, "I'm coming home"? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want updates on the cases mainstream media stops covering after the sentencing headlines fade, you need to subscribe right now. Because there's still a financial fraud case waiting. There's still a restitution hearing in July. There's still an appeal strategy being prepared. This story is far from over. I'm Cole and this is True Crime Stories. Don't forget to hit that like button, share this with someone who's been following the Kouri Richins case, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Because the most chilling part of true crime isn't always the crime itself. Sometimes it's what happens after the verdict.